Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Literature and Literature. Thank you so much for watching, and today I'll be talking about the Age of Chaucer. In case you haven't seen Old English literature and the Anglo-Norman period wala video, please go and check that out first to develop a better understanding of this age so that it's in chronology and everything, right? Okay. But in case you have already done it or prepared from any other source, then of course, most welcome. Let's start the video then. The Age of Chaucer, of course, the dates, you have to have a rough idea because everywhere you'll find a different date for the Age of Chaucer, right? Because of course almost, I mean, different historians are going to divide it differently, so the dates are not that important. You just have to know that okay, this was the time period in which the Age of Chaucer was, which we call as the Age of Chaucer, right? Now, what you have to understand to know about the Age of Chaucer is what was going on. The historical background will give you, it will give you the sense of the age, and then you will know why certain writers were writing the way they were, right? I will talk about that. Let's start with the Hundred Years' War first. I have already told you that if there's something in the title which can be asked, I mean, if the title is, is giving a question for the examiner to ask, that is very, very important. And the first thing that came to my mind was Hundred Years Wars, did it exist for 100 years only or was it for more years? So this went on for 116 years, and that makes it important. You should know that 100 years war was not a 100 years war. It was a 160-year it spanned for 116 years. That can be a question. So, what was the story? This is not important, but just for the understanding, you have to just have a basic idea. So, we know that after the Norman conquest happened. I told you in the previous video, the Norman conquest happened in 1066 AD, and how then the French influence came. So now you to see the thing that the kings of Normandy who came here in England, they were ruling both the places, France also and England also. So obviously these two countries are going to have some kind of relationship. So what happened at one point of time, in France, Charles the Fourth was ruling, and he did not have any heir. So now, obviously, when there is not an heir, there is going to be a contest for who is going to be the next king. So what happened was that his sister, who was Edward III's mother, you don't need to know her name. Edward III's mother, she felt that Edward III could perhaps be the king of France. And from here started the entire conflict, because the French people did not want a king of England to be ruling over France. So like that it happened, because Edward III was not from the father's side, right? He was from the mother's side. So that was not considered, like, I mean, France, this did not really happen in France. Anyway, you don't really have to know what happened and what did not. Just remember that Edward III claimed his, like, right to the throne, perhaps because he kind of thought that he was the rightful kind of claimer for the throne. So, but that did not happen. Of course, the people, after all, have to accept you, and the people of France were not accepting Edward III as the king. Okay. Now, another thing about Hundred Years' War, it's not a single war; it's a series of battles, right? There was the Battle of Crecy, Poitiers, and Agnicourt. Now, you would ask me why only these three, right? I could have like told you about a lot of battles because a lot of them happened. I'll tell you why. Whatever is the starting point of anything is always important. I talked about Edward III and how he claimed his rightful, not rightful, yeah, but he claimed his ownership. He tried to claim that he was the king of France, but of course, he failed to do that. And the first thing was, this is three, okay, this is not two, it looks like two, it's three. So Edward III fought with Philip IV was Charles IV's cousin. His cousin was Philip IV, and Philip IV fought with Edward III. And of course, the winner was Edward III. But all these battles, Crecy, Poitiers, Agnicourt, all of them have been won by England. And I'll come to Poitiers later. It's not that important, but yes, it is important. So just know the name of this battle. Agnicourt becomes important because not only Shakespeare's Henry V, of course, this is the background to Shakespeare's Henry V. In case you do not know what the story is and everything, we'll deal about it in detail when we talk about Shakespeare. But Agnicourt also figures in many important works. You will see it when you read it. You will have Battle of Agnicourt plays written on it and works written on it. So you should know what Agnicourt was about and when it happened. And of course, England was victorious. Okay. So that's it. So whatever I've written in pencil is not important, Hannah. You don't really have to memorize that. Then you have another important phenomenon, which was Black Death. Now see, in the times of COVID, now everybody understands what a pandemic is, right? So Black Death was a pandemic too, and this perhaps has recorded the highest number of deaths ever which any pandemic could bring about. So Black Death was a pandemic, and very interesting thing, this is not important, this is just for your just for your knowledge sake. This was spread by a bacteria which came and was spread by fleas. Coronavirus, of course, is a virus, and normally viruses are more what do you call it, I mean, contagious. Bacterias are not, honestly. So here it was a bacterial kind of plague, or Black Death as you call it. So it was spread by it, and a lot of people died, a lot of them. Now what happened, because of this, because of Black Death, it did have an impact on Peasants Revolt, right? So what happened was that Peasants Revolt, it lasted for a month, and why it started is first what we're going to talk about, and then I'll tell you how Black Death kind of um, how Black Death was going to um, it led to the Peasants Revolt. It has a minute impact, but it does have it. So Peasants Revolt lasted for a month, and it was because of poll tax. Now, what is poll tax? It is one tax which is levied on perhaps everybody irrespective of their income. Like what do you have in India? We have progressive taxation, right? Some people will come in the 10% tax slab, some people will come in the 20% tax slab, according to the money that they're earning, right? So the more the money you earn, the more you're going to pay the tax. But this poll tax was quite, what do I call it, it was not fair. Everybody has to pay the same amount of tax. And in the circumstance when in a kind of condition when we just gotten over, not just, but of course Black Death had happened. So when such a plague or a pandemic comes, it is difficult to revive. Of course, today globalization and a lot of things, economies are stronger, but at that time, of course not. So to get out of it, it would have taken time, right? And then you were asking for for taxes and everything. So that was obviously not a very appreciated guy. It was, of course, it would have been criticized, and that is why it led to Peasants Revolt. Whenever the poor is exploited, no, he will accept it, and he will kind of be okay with it for some time. But there will come a time when he will not be able to even sustain himself, and that is when the revolt will happen. Whenever revolts happen, not just because of uh, um, some slight disheartening or anything, it is because of a lot of things that have gathered and become a major thing. Now peasants, what happened was that, first of all, poverty was there in England. So peasants were not even they were not even able to have the basic needs that one should have. So what option do they have? They do not have anything to lose, so obviously they are going to revolt, right? So they revolted. And John Ball, he's also one person who has an important role in the Peasants Revolt. His sermons, they have an impact, and they kind of motivated the people to revolt against the government or the king, whatever you want to call it. And the leadership was of Wat Tyler. These two names will come again and again, so you should know. A very important book by William Morris has been written on it. You don't have to think of it right now. I will tell you. But William Morris, remember. You remember I told you about in the previous videos, William Morris is the same person who translated Beowulf, right? Along with whom? I told you. Seamus Heaney. And there was one more, J.R.R. Tolkien, right? So you have to remember that whenever you connect like this, and it is a sort of instant revision also, and this will help you. Okay, then came the Statute of Pleading. I've talked about what it is in the previous video, but it comes here, right, in 1362. This is the chronological arrangement of all the writers. I don't really I mean, this is of no importance. You have to remember them in chronology, and a little bit okay, 1300s to about 1370 was the period when these people were born. And I'm sorry, I wrote it here, it comes here, that is why I just changed the position. So it's John Mandeville, Wycliffe, Gower, Langland, Chaucer, Hockley, Lydgate. I also wanted to talk about John Skeleton. But I think I would cover him in the next age, because John Skeleton is not in any age as particular. He almost acts as a bridge. So we will talk about him either in a completely different video, or maybe I'll include him in when I talk about the next period, right? So these are the writers that you have to know about, and in these also there are important and not important writers. You have to know about John Gover. I don't need to tell you that Geoffrey Chaucer is important. These two are hardly important. Like, even if you leave them, it's okay. There hardly has been a question, like one or two, well, one each, I think, not more than that in the previous years. So in the previous years, I'm taking the reference from 2012 onwards, right? So Langland is important, Piers the Plowman, and Wycliffe is important too. Plus, Gover and Chaucer are really, really important. Wycliffe and Langland come later, and these two you can even leave if you want to, if you do not have the kind of time. I think that's it for this video. This is a short video. I just gave you the background of the age. I will continue with the writers one after the other, and I'll post separate videos on it, and then I'll organize them into a playlist, so that when you have to revise an age, you don't have to like literally watch every video and it gets confusing, right? So I will make separate videos, even though at times I feel that people like John Mandeville, you hardly have to know like 2 3 lines, but I will make a separate video just for the sake of convenience. I feel, but if you think they should be connected or anything, you could write it down in the comments, because I am obviously I can read the comments right now, and I will plan accordingly. Then I think till tomorrow I'll be making John Wycliffe, and according to chronology, maybe Mandeville I'll start, then Wycliffe, then Gower, then Langland, Chaucer, Hoccleve, and Lydgate. So that's it. That's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you watched it till here, I would like to tell you one thing. You've seen it, you make the notes, maybe you refer to something else also if you want, then you revise it. If you do not revise it, it's going to be of no use. Revise it, learn it, so that you don't forget it after 10 months, right? All right, then, take care, bye bye, and keep studying and work hard, and you'll definitely achieve it.